Okay, in this video, what we're going to create is a way of showing where sprites that are within a map are on a mini-map. So, like in this example, I've got this little spiral character, and above him I've got a mini-map, but I can't see where he is in the mini-map, and that's what I want to implement. We've got a few steps to sort out to enable us to do this, so let's make a start. So I'm going to my game container. I've already got a TileMap which I've got saved, so I'm storing that in current map. I've created a mini map which I'm currently not saving, so the first job is to make sure we save that. So what we're going to do up here inside game container, we're going to create a public static. This will allow us to access this from any other object in the game. Oops, so we're going to say public static minimap, and we'll call it scanner. Okay, so we're storing a minimap. So on the line where we create the minimap, we just put scanner equals minimap. Okay, so that's the first thing we need to make sure is in place. The next thing we're going to do, any sprite that wants to be part of the minimap is going to need to be able to provide a tile location. So where is it in its main map, so that we can replicate that on the little map. Okay, and in order to do that easily without lots of duplication, what we're going to do is we're going to create an interface. So if we go up to project and we say add new item, if you leave it on Visual C#, you'll get a big list, and you'll see it's not very alphabetical, but you're looking for the thing called interface. Now you're going to give it a name beginning with capital I, because that's what we do with interfaces. So I'm going to call it mini map, mini mapper. Okay, and it'll look like this. Zoom that in a little bit. Right, what this does is allows us to specify what things a sprite has to implement in order to be used with the mini map and be shown on the mini map. We only need one thing to do this, okay, and that's just going to be some property to allow us to give, oops, right, I need to put some X and A things in here, so I need to copy the old libraries at the top. So let's just grab from the top of one of our files the libraries, just stick them in there. Okay, right, so we're going to return a tile location which is stored in a point. We need to give a name for this property. I'm just going to call it current tile, and when we're defining properties in an interface, we don't actually write any code because that's up to the sprite to write the code, but we say we want that. So we just leave it as that. That's all we've got to do for the interface. Okay, now we've got that, we can make use of that when we now create our minimap sprite. So we're going to do project add class, and we're going to call this, I'm going to call it mini marker, or minimap marker is a better name for mine because I called it a minimap. Okay, let's zoom that in. Right, let's make sure we start by copying the library entries first. Right, so this is going to be ultimately a sprite. So this is just defining what our little sprite in the map is going to look like. We're just going to use some little rectangles for little squares. Okay, so minimap marker. When we create this, what we're going to need to be aware of is who is our parent. So what sprite are we making a little mark for? I'm going to, because I'm doing little rectangles, I'm going to have a colour for these, and I'm going to give it also a size. Okay, so I can change how big it is. As with all sprites, you should always make sure that you add the sprite to the engine manager, otherwise nothing will happen with it. We're going to define a frame. but we're only going to define the engine manager's single white pixel, because we're now going to scale it up, and we do that saying scale both, and it's the size value that we provide. Okay, now because this is going to be in the minimap, we don't want this to scroll around when the viewport scrolls, so we don't want it in world coordinates, so we're going to say world coordinates equals false, otherwise it'll move around. Okay, and we want it to be fixed in the minimap. The other thing that we need to do when we get given this parent, when we create the marker sprite, we need to store it. So the first line of this, what I'm going to do is I'm going to say my parent equals parent. Now that won't exist, my parent, so I'm going to right click on it and say generate field, and there you go, it creates it. Now it's put private in front of it because only the minimap marker needs to know about this. Okay. The other thing we need to do is create an update routine. So when this sprite gets updated, what it's going to do, it's going to ask its parent where it is, and we'll put the code in for that in a sec. So I'm just going to say follow, or yeah, follow parent. You can call these whatever you want. Okay, that doesn't exist. Generate method stub. Okay, so in order for all this to work, we've just created that interface. So we're going to assume that any sprite that has asked us to work for it as a minimap marker is going to implement this interface. So we know that this thing is going to exist. Okay, so in our follow parent, we're going to record the tile, and we're going to now get that tile from our parent value. Now we can't just say parent dot, I called it my parent dot, what did I call it in the interface, current tile. Okay, it doesn't work, it doesn't exist. So what we have to do is we need to put a bracket around my parent, and then we start another bracket and we say, right, well, assuming that, let's do it a nicer way actually. Leave a space and put I mini. If the problem with IntelliSense, apart from it sometimes crashes and you have to load your project again, it doesn't work if you've got your cursor next to another character. So give yourself a little bit of space. So I've got a space on either side of the cursor now, and I'm going to say I minimap mapper. Right, put that in brackets, and then put a whole set of brackets round both that and my parent. Ooh, sorry about that. Now when you press dot, you'll get current tile. Oh dear, let me just have a drink. Right, so current tile's there. Okay, so what this is called is casting. Now what we're saying is assume that this value implements iMinimapper. Oh dear, my throat's going mental. If you knew the trouble I had making this video, you wouldn't be surprised that my throat's going funny. I've had a bit of a nightmare. Right, so that's going to get our tile. Now what we're going to do, using the reference to the scanner, we can set our minimap sprite, this sprite that we're defining, to the center of that tile, but in the minimap. So we can say the name of our gain container, and I call mine gain container, there's the scanner, and I can say set actor at center, and it's this is the actor, this minimap marker sprite, and the tile it is the one I've just gotten from my parent. Okay, now the other thing that won't happen, this set actor at center routine doesn't take account of the scale of a TileMap. Okay, and our TileMap's shrunk. So what we've got to do, now that we've set the position of this little marker sprite, we need to now adjust it by the scale factor. Okay, so we do that, again by referring to the game container and the scanner. If yours isn't called game container, go back to where you created your minimap, and it's that name there that you're referring to, and that name. Okay, so I'm going to go to the render properties and I'm going to say scale factor. So I've done star equals, which just means multiply the value by this value. Okay, so that that creates the marker sprite. That'll just magically work. What we've now got to do is make some adjustments to our sprite that's running around our normal map so that it can make use of this map marker. Okay, so I've got my player one, which is just my naff little spirally thing. In order for this all to work, I've got to do two things. I need to know what TileMap I'm working with, and this currently doesn't. So let's go back to my game container where I created my player, and let's add a reference to the map. Okay, so here's my map. So I'm going to put in there current map. It's all going to go unhappy because it doesn't work that way at the minute. Okay, so I'm going to go back to my player definition, and where I create my player, I started off with just this starting point, and that's what I had here a lot. So I was giving it the start position. Now you might have created your player from your TileMap data. Okay, if you've ever followed that video, or I've shown you how to take a tile and use it to position a sprite. Okay, so you might put something slightly different when you do the player creation. You'll put this because that'll be your reference, because you'll have created it inside the map. Okay, if you have any problems, just ask me about this. Okay, so let's go back to player and let's modify the constructor line. So we're asking for a game map. That's what I called my map. Here's my map. Okay, it was a game map. You can see in my game container it's game map. Okay, that's the type of tile map we created. So I'm just going to put it in there and I'm going to call it map. Okay, and I just need to make sure that what I do is I save it. So I'm going to say my map equals map. So I store it straight away because I'll need reference to it later on. Okay, now that doesn't exist, so I'm just going to say generate field, and it creates it there. Okay, so the next thing is to implement this interface. Okay, this iMinimapper. So I'm going to say, right, I want to be part of a minimap. So if I go up to this class line where I say player is a sprite, remember you have something different there. I'm just going to say iMini, and the picker should work and it'll come up. Okay, if we try and build this now, it'll moan at us because it's going to say, oh, I'm not implementing current tile. So let's implement current tile, and we'll just do this here. So we'll say public point, because that's what it needed to be, point, and it's got to be called current tile. So current tile. Okay, and then we put get, because it was a property, a get property, which makes it read only. And then we're just going to say return. So next I just put the braces in there. So we're going to ask where our character is. So we're going to say my map dot tile location of us. So this. Okay. So when we build it now, so I've just done, if you've got the C# settings, go up to build and say build solution. If it doesn't say F6, you've got VB settings on. Okay. Ask me how to change that to C#. It's because of what you did last year. Okay, and that should be good to go. Okay, only one last thing we've got to do. So all that other stuff I did, where I created the interface, I've done that once. Created the minimap marker, done that once. In my game container, stored a reference to my minimap. I do that once. I don't have to do any of that again. For any sprite that I now want to be in the minimap, all I do add this interface, implement the current tile member for the interface, make sure I'm storing a reference to the map that the player's in. Okay, and that's stored there. I've added it when the player is created. And that is all you need to do, these bits. Plus one more thing, which is actually creating a map marker. So when we build this player, what we're going to say do is we're just going to say new minimap marker, open the bracket. Right, it wants to know the parent, well it's us, this. Colour, let's go for colour.red. And size, let's go for 5 pixels, just so we can see it. Okay. Right, let's run that and see what happens. Right, so we've got, you can see that there's a rectangle moving. It's just approaching that little yellow one on the minimap. But it's not the colour I set, which is a bit odd. Okay, so we'll go and investigate that in a sec. But you can see it's following me. So I'm approaching the blue block and it's approaching the blue tile on the minimap. Let's investigate the colour setting. I have a suspicion about what it is. Right, the suspicion is correct. I haven't used the colour value on the minimap. So if I say wash equals colour, the other thing I ought to do, I don't want this to be on the normal sprite layer, I want it to be on the HUD sprite layer. So I'm going to add a layer value and I'm going to set it to HUD. That's drawn after all the sprites and any final tile maps. So if you remember when we did the minimap, we had the minimap as a front tile map. So the HUD is drawn after that. So it'll be on top of the minimap. So let's try it again and it should, hopefully, be a nice bright red. And there you can see it's changed to red. Notice the alpha is different to the minimap's alpha. Remember I can set the alpha, I can set an alpha of a sprite the same if I wanted to. Okay, so you can see I'm approaching that. Go down here, you can see I'm approaching that block, that corner. And there you go. Okay, so let's just recap. The first bit to set up, make sure you're storing a static reference to your scanner, your minimap. Call it what you want. Create an interface that insists that we have a current tile property that returns the tile, well, just a tile value. We then created the minimap marker, which is just a little sprite that looked like this, making use of the parent, which we stored. Just creates a little pixel. It has an update routine that just asks for a minimapper implementation for current tile, uses the scanner or the minimap to put our character at the same tile location in the minimap. We then scale it, okay, to take account of the fact that we shrunk the minimap. So that's the basic definitions that we need to do, and then for any sprite that we want to use the minimapper, implement minimapper and its current tile property, get hold of the map that you're in and store a reference to it, that line, and then request a minimap marker be made. What I'll do is I'll do another video just showing that final step for adding a new sprite to the minimap. Okay, and that's it.